You know when you've been looking out for a game for so long and you finally get it in your hands, and when you finally play it, you see that not only does it meet your expectations, it exceeds them? That is Tchia. Let me tell you about it. This game centers itself around the main character, Tchia, who sets out on an adventure where the main antagonist of the game, Miyavora, sends a henchman to kidnap her father. This forces Tchia to leave her home and embark on quite an emotional and gripping story that's full of themes such as self-discovery, coming of age, and true human relationships through culture, music, and being connected. Now, I won't go too much into the game's story because this is where the game shines. However, it is so clear how much passion and heart was poured into this game from its development team, and that's only superseded by the love and care in providing the player with a fantastical depiction of the beautiful New Caledonia. Playing through this game felt more akin to a cultural experience or a form of art, rather than just feeling like a simple video game. Now, one of the more interesting things about Tchia, and you've seen it through most trailers, is her ability to soul jump. This is an ability where you can go ahead and possess animals and objects alike. Taking control over certain things will give you those expected characteristics. So you'll be able to soar through the skies as a bird, you'll be able to explore the open seas as a turtle or a shark or a dolphin, and you'll also be able to traverse the land freely as man's best friend. Now, taking control of animals isn't purely just for exploration's sake. Some of them actually come with unique abilities that you'll need to implement to solve puzzles, explore more of the world, or to progress the overall game. Now, what are those abilities? I'm not going to spoil it here for you, but I will give you one. If you become a bird, you can shit on command. Hey, if that doesn't make you want to buy this game, I don't know what will. Now, being able to take over animals that exist in a variety of habitats only invites the players to explore more, and this is one of Tchia's biggest strengths. Being able to explore every facet of this world as any living creature and being rewarded for doing so always felt like such a joy. However, this isn't the limitless exploration that you might be thinking of. Tchia does introduce a stamina meter as well as a parachute that you can use to glide down. Don't say it. It's just like Zelda. And moving on to your combat. Combat in this game is very basic, and it's clear that this is by purposeful design. This isn't a game that was intended to have a super deep combat system, as that's not the game this is trying to be. It is very clear in its own identity. You will have a set of enemies to defeat, but they are fairly basic. Most are susceptible to fire, and they rarely pose a threat to you. In your combat encounters, you're more than likely just going to be possessing something that's on fire or can catch fire to throw at these enemies to get rid of them. Again, it's not the deepest mechanic, but it works well enough for a game like Tchia. Now, there are other things that you do unlock relating to combat. I'm not going to spoil it here again because it is very, very fun to experience that firsthand. But again, the combat isn't too deep, but again, this isn't a game that sets out to have the most intricate combat system. So we've discussed soul jumping and the enemies you'll find in the world, but how do you get around this world? Well, there are actually a few ways. As I said before, you can soul jump into any animal you see, and more often than not, you'll probably be using the bird more so than anything else, as it's the most useful in getting you from point A to B. However, do keep in mind that there is a limit to how much you can soul jump. Every time you jump into an animal, or just anything really, there is a meter on the bottom of the screen that tells you how long you have left. It's kind of like another stamina meter. You also unlock a boat very early on in the game, which you can use to sail the open seas. And hey, if none of that works for you, you can just use the trees and fling yourself across, which is actually really fun. Throughout your play, you'll also come across many collectibles, challenges, and things of the like, which will reward you in many different ways. Some can unlock items for Chia to use, some might be new cosmetics for Chia to wear, which can all be mixed and matched, or to even customize your boat. However, from my play, these unlockable items and wearables are cosmetic only. They don't provide any buffs to increase stamina or to change your boat speed or anything like that. And again, this game knows exactly what kind of game it's trying to be, and it stays away from those more RPG mid-maxing elements in favor of simply telling a gripping and emotional story. Some may like that, some may not. It's up to you. But just be aware that if you are a completionist, there is a lot to do, a lot to collect, lots to explore, and your efforts will be rewarded. Now, one of the biggest strengths this game has is its clear love and passion for New Caledonia. Again, it's like a cultural experience playing this game. It is so heartwarming to see how much love and passion from a real world place is brought into this game. It's a game that we have the privilege to explore. The game's dialogue is recorded in the native language of New Caledonia, which is being French and Drehu, and some might find this to be a weakness of the game. However, you cannot change the game's language. For me, this was totally fine, as it just enriched the game and the overall theme of culture for me in my play. Same goes for the totems you'll find throughout your play and the huge emphasis on music. Everything mixes together to create a wonderful cultural experience. Now, while on the topic of music, my god, this game has one of the best soundtracks I've heard in video games for a very long time. Every song choice is top notch. It perfectly pairs and emphasizes whatever is going on during your play. It heightens emotions, it calms you down, it can raise the stakes or mellow you out completely. Not a lot of games get the music so right, however Chia smashes this out of the park. Now, like every game, Chia is not perfect. So what are the weaknesses? What are the downfalls? What are the perceived negatives around this game? Now again, these are perceived negatives, not necessarily things that I took issue with the game, however things that you or someone else might see as a negative. I just want to raise it just so you have all the information. First off is the game's length. It is said that on your first playthrough, you should be able to finish the main story in about 10 to 12 hours. Now I personally don't see this as a weakness, as I think the game is pretty well paced and that 10 to 12 hour mark is pretty good. It's a game that doesn't really overstay its welcome. It knows it's not going to be a 30+ hour game, and there are things there for completionists and other side challenges as well. If you're only going to focus on the main story and ignore everything else, you're going to get a shorter experience. That's just how it works. Another perceived weakness is when you soul jump into animals. Some do come with abilities, however, a lot don't. It is awesome jumping into different animals to begin with, but you're most likely finding yourself gravitating toward one or two main animals because they're either the quickest to get around or the most useful. This then means that you leave a whole variety of different animals off the board, and you most likely would just ignore them because they don't really offer too much of value over the ones that you gravitate toward. However, on the other hand, I did find myself jumping into a deer and just running across the open field, or possessing a dog and just running on the beach. It really is up to how you personally attack and address this game and how much you put in. There really is just something so special about jumping into an animal and basking in the beautiful, vibrant world around you. Not caring for what mission or quest you're on, not rushing around, simply just taking it all in. And there's an immense value in that, at least to me. Another perceived weakness is the combat. The main way to engage in the combat is soul jumping into an item that's something flammable and then aiming that at your target. And as a further extension to this, the main enemies in the game are mostly susceptible to fire only. When they do appear, you know the exact main way to get rid of them is through something flammable or just with fire itself. And then it just becomes as simple as aim the thing that's on fire and shoot it at the enemy. I would have liked some more variety in the enemies, as they did feel like somewhat of an unnecessary inconvenience rather than providing a challenge or forcing players to utilize the myriad of tools at their disposal to get rid of them in creative ways. You absolutely can string together some pretty insane combinations depending on what you have in the later half of the game. However, the enemy variety, the way you address enemies mostly is the same from when you start to unlock combat to the very end of the game. Nothing really changes too much. I would have also liked to have seen Chia's soul jumping ability being implemented into the combat system a little bit more. I feel like that might have been a bit of a wasted opportunity. But hey, this game doesn't focus on combat as we said before, but still it leaves a little bit to be desired. Now, part of the mission structure can also be seen as a weakness, as most of the missions are fetch quests. Again, because this game is so short, it didn't really take a toll on me too much. However, if you absolutely hate fetch quest, you will not like the mission structures of this game. There are other things to do in the game aside from main missions, thankfully, such as the Mano fortresses and totem shrines, both of which provide their own unique spin on the mechanics learned throughout the game and offer a nice change of pace from the usual beats and a welcome scale of difficulty. But if you're not into those side missions or side quests or taking down dungeons or fortresses or anything like that, and you only want to power through the main story, it's fetch quests, unfortunately. In terms of bugs and performance issues, I didn't really experience too much. Frame rates were stable throughout my play. However, I did note the camera sometimes can get confused and struggles a little bit based on what you possess. It does seem to struggle a little bit when you possess something close to the ground and something flat, like a rock or a plank. But given that you're not a psycho like me, you're probably not going to be a plank of wood for a lot of your playtime. Ultimately, Tchia feels like a well-refined, good old-fashioned game. It's a game that doesn't have a system of greed or where they try to suck every last dollar from you. Rather, it's a game that's pure focus is on giving you, the player, the best experience through expert storytelling, an immersive and beautiful world to explore, and unique gameplay mechanics. It really is a breath of fresh air, and I think it's an absolute must play. Especially if you have a PlayStation Plus membership, it's free to download, so you have no excuse. But guys, that's the video today. Let me know in the comments down below, have you played Tchia? Let me know what you thought about it, and if you haven't picked it up, why not? Or are you just sort of sitting on the fence? I want to thank the Ko-fi supporters on screen right now. Thank you so much for your support in going above and beyond. And hey, if you liked the video, please go ahead, leave it a like, sub to the channel, helps out. But I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care.